I wanted to say that I miss you so much, and I really hope I'll try to see if you can come visit me.
This is a story that never should have happened. A young girl full of life and promise, taken too soon. Emily Pike, just 14 years old, a member of the San Carlos Apache tribe in Arizona, was found dead in circumstances that have left a community shattered and a nation asking why. Her case isn't isolated. It's part of a much larger crisis, a silent epidemic of violence against indigenous women and girls in the United States. Before the news stories, before the headlines, before the heartbreak, there was Emily. Emily Pike was a 14-year-old girl growing up on the San Carlos Apache Reservation in Arizona. She was born into a world shaped by rich traditions, strong family bonds, and a deep spiritual connection to the land. Her family remembers her as joyful, always eager to help, always smiling, always asking questions. She loved animals, especially horses, and spent hours sketching pictures of them in her notebook. Her favorite color was turquoise, a color sacred in her culture. Emily had a special closeness with her grandmother, who taught her Apache stories, songs, and the meaning of resilience. She wanted to become a nurse, not just any nurse, but one who could work in her own community, helping her people. She was part of her school's Native Youth Group, where she danced in traditional regalia and helped organize food drives for elders. Emily had the heart of a leader, the kind of spirit that lifts others even when no one is watching. She was a child, yes, but one with big dreams and a fierce sense of love and loyalty for those around her. Her story should have been about growing up, finding her path, and achieving all that she dreamed of. Instead, we're left with memories and the echoes of what could have been. It was supposed to be a normal day, like any other. But in early 2024, that normalcy shattered. Emily never came home. Her family began calling her phone. At first, they thought maybe she was just running late. Maybe her phone had died. But as the hours stretched into evening and then into night, the fear set in. Her family reported her missing immediately. But in many tribal communities, time moves slower. Not because the people wait, but because the systems do. Flyers went up around San Carlos and neighboring towns. Social media lit up with Emily's photo, shared hundreds of times by friends, family, and complete strangers. Volunteers combed the dusty roads, arroyos, and washes around the reservation. People searched on foot, on horseback, and in pickups. Her community rallied, like they always do, not waiting on anyone else to care. And then, the worst. Days after she was last seen, Emily's body was discovered in a remote area outside of town. The details were not immediately released. The grief was immediate. The shock, paralyzing. Her family collapsed in heartbreak. The community lit candles and whispered prayers. And in the silence that followed, something darker settled in. A haunting feeling that this wasn't just a tragedy. It was a pattern. A wound reopened again. After Emily's body was found, her family expected answers. But instead, they were met with silence. The investigation into Emily Pike's death was slow, unclear, and, to many, agonizingly familiar. Weeks passed without public updates. There was confusion about who was in charge. Was it tribal police? County officials? The FBI? The maze of overlapping jurisdictions left critical time wasted. In cases involving Native victims, these delays aren't unusual. They're expected. And that's the tragedy within the tragedy. Emily's loved ones say they were left in the dark. Community members called for transparency, but little came. Reporters reached out, but national media largely stayed silent. If Emily had been a white teenager in a suburban neighborhood, would her story have made front-page news? Would the investigation have moved faster? These questions are painful, but they're necessary, because in the eyes of the people who knew and loved her, Emily wasn't just another case file. She was a child who mattered. Her family still doesn't know exactly what happened that day. And in the absence of clarity, all that remains is pain and the echo of a familiar injustice.
I want the family to know how much we love them.
Thursday, a day of prayer remembering 14-year-old Emily Pike.
Emily was a precious little girl, and she was a loving little girl.
Police say Emily was living at a group home in Mesa when she was reported missing. On Valentine's Day, found dismembered off Highway 60, northeast of Globe.
Tragedy affects not only her family, but the entire San Carlos Apache tribe.
1 week after being identified, hundreds coming to Encounter AZ Church for a prayer vigil.
Emily was such a beautiful person. You couldn't come around here and not smile.
Many, like Emily's family, who are a part of the San Carlos Apache tribe, traveling to the valley.
Coming up here and being up here for this reason, like many others said, we have so many emotions.
The Gila County Sheriff's Office saying this week the FBI is involved with the case and they do have leads.
Obviously, a horrible crime was committed against her. So whatever happened, she ended up with somebody who killed her. And so movement is really important.
Brad Garrett is a former FBI agent, now a crime and terrorism analyst for ABC.
Fortunately, because you've got county police and federal agents working on the case, they can tackle these things a lot quicker because the manpower is there. And if technology needs to be done, then they'll do that too.
As the investigation plays out,
Epidemic of missing and murdered Indigenous women remains largely unreported, and we continue to be overlooked.
organizers and leaders at Thursday's vigil working and calling for change.
We matter. We matter. As long as I have air in my lungs, I'm going to continue to speak until we make change and difference.
Emily's family, with so many behind them, pushing for justice.
At this time, who is responsible, but I do know they mess with the wrong people. We are not going to be quiet. This is not going to, we want justice and we're not going to be quiet until we get it.
For Arizona Tonight, I'm Ashley Holden.
Emily Pike is not an isolated tragedy. Her death is part of a horrifying pattern, one that's been ignored for far too long. Across the United States, Indigenous women and girls face some of the highest rates of violence, sexual assault, and murder. According to the CDC, homicide is the third leading cause of death among Native women aged 10 to 24. The Urban Indian Health Institute found that more than 5,700 Native American women and girls were reported missing in a single year, and yet only a fraction of those cases were logged in the federal database. The crisis is everywhere, but too often, no one is looking. Systemic racism, broken jurisdictional systems, and decades of neglect have created a perfect storm where Indigenous victims, like Emily, fall through the cracks. Families are left to investigate on their own. Communities are left to grieve in silence. There is even a name for it now, MMIWG, Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls. But this movement is not new. Native women have been raising the alarm for generations. They've marched, testified before Congress, and demanded change. But the urgency hasn't matched the scale of the loss. When a Native girl goes missing, there is often no Amber Alert, no national outcry, no viral hashtag. And when her body is found, it is too often treated as just another statistic. But Emily Pike was not a statistic. She was someone. And her story demands more than silence. It demands justice and change. Emily Pike was laid to rest on the San Carlos Apache Reservation, but her story did not end with the funeral. In the days and weeks that followed, something powerful began to stir across the community. Not just sorrow, but purpose. Vigils were held. Community members gathered in circles, offering songs, prayers, and stories. People wept openly. Children clutched signs with Emily's name painted in bright colors. Elders spoke of their own losses, of daughters, sisters, nieces who never came home. Emily's family, still reeling from grief, became voices for justice. They stood before cameras. They met with tribal leaders. They demanded answers. But it wasn't just San Carlos. Support came from across Indian country, Tribes from Arizona to Alaska sent messages of solidarity. Activists invoked Emily's name during marches for MMIWG. Her image appeared on posters, t-shirts, and protest signs. Her story was no longer just local. It had become a spark. Local organizers began pressuring lawmakers to fix the broken system. They called for a fully funded, culturally competent investigative unit dedicated to MMIWG cases on tribal lands. They demanded real-time coordination between tribal police, state investigators, and the FBI. People are no longer asking quietly. They are insisting that Emily Pike and every Indigenous girl like her will not be forgotten, that their names won't vanish into paperwork, that their cases won't be dismissed, that their families won't be left alone in the dark. The movement is growing, and it's not built on politics. It's built on love, the kind that refuses to be quiet. Emily Pike's story is heartbreaking, but what's even more tragic is how many Emilys there are. Thousands of Indigenous women and girls have vanished, and still the systems built to protect them remain broken. So the question we must all face is, what can be done? The first step is awareness. We cannot fix what we refuse to see. Share Emily's story, say her name, learn the names of other Native women who never made it home. Demand that media cover these cases with the same urgency and compassion they give to others. Pressure lawmakers at the local, state, and federal level to support legislation like Savannah's Act and the Not Invisible Act, which aim to close the gaps in reporting and response. Support Native-led organizations doing the frontline work. Groups like the MMIW USA, Coalition to Stop Violence Against Native Women, and the National Indigenous Women's Resource Center. And if you're not Indigenous, listen, show up, use your voice, your platform, your privilege, not to speak over Native people, but to stand beside them. Because justice isn't charity, it's not sympathy, it's solidarity. Emily deserved a life filled with promise, joy, and safety. So did the thousands before her. And if we choose silence now, it will happen again. But if we act, if we demand better from our systems, from our leaders, from each other, then Emily's name will not just be a memory, it will be a turning point.
Pink ribbons line the streets here in Vilas for Emily Pike. Emily was reported missing from a group home in Mesa. We've been covering her case. She was then found killed about 20 minutes northeast of Globe off the US 60. We were invited to come back here to Vilas, to San Carlos Apache tribal land by tribal leadership, by some members of Emily's family. We were able to speak to the chairman of the San Carlos Apache tribe, several tribal council members, and also Emily's family. We've been hearing about her case, the impact that this has had on not only this community and her tribe, but also the nation as well. Now, while we were here, we did those interviews, we talked to them. I do want to let you know we did learn from the Gila County Sheriff's Office that right now there's still no persons of interest or suspects in Emily's case, and we're going to continue to follow Emily's case and have more from our visit here in Vilas coming up on ABC 15.
Thank you for watching and honoring Emily's story with us. If this moved you, please share it. Her voice deserves to be heard. And if you'd like to see more stories that matter, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Together, we can keep these voices alive.